Name some of the top beauty influencers of those early days that you remember.
I mean, you had Patrick Starr, you had Jeffree Star, you had Candy Johnson, Makeup Shayla, Jackie Aina. You had, God, who are like my favorites? Michelle Phan. And then you had like your fashion crossover, like Chriselle Lim, right? You had all of those sort of like bloggers meets influencers who are crossing over. Manny, MUA, Mac Daddy. You know, these were all people that at the time, I mean,
Gigi Gorgeous,
Graveyard Girl, who was like one of my all-time favorites out of Texas, like a complete crazy pants.
So you watched all this content?
I watched all this content.
You don't wear makeup?
I don't wear makeup. I mean, they were not talking about makeup.
Right.
They weren't talking about makeup. They were talking about their day. They were talking about stress, their life, being queer, being brown. They were talking about reviewing products in an authentic way.
While doing their makeup.
But they were also super funny and crass and raw and direct and crying and flipping out. Like, I loved watching it. Like, I just felt like I'd never seen anything like it before in my life.
There was a 2019 interview you did with the Wall Street Journal. You said that one of the shortcomings of BeautyCon, looking back, was pursuing the trajectory of being a media company. Mm-hmm. What do you mean by that? Will you explain?
God, being a founder is such a head fuck. You know, you are constantly chasing a current so that your ride is a little easier, so that your journey is thrust forward by the momentum of the market. And at the time, all the hype was around Vice Media, you know, all of these big things called multi-channel networks that Disney was buying, like Maker and Fullscreen and Style Hall and Bustle and The Thrillist. Like, there was all this money being thrown at BuzzFeed, Complex. And everyone thought somehow all these companies were going to go public and they were going to become the next, I don't know what they thought, but they were all giving them these crazy valuations, like Vice is worth $8 billion, right? And so because we had so many eyeballs on us and everyone who came to BeautyCon on average communicated their experience no less than like 13 times. Like you would go to someone's feed and it would be on their feed, you know, 1, 2, 3, 4, 13, 14 times on average. And if you want to be heady about it, all of the big companies that were getting acquired at the time, companies like NYX and Too Faced, they were all getting acquired based on this new metric called EMV. And EMV was this benchmark of chitter chatter online and a company that was measuring how much people chitter chattered about you. And so
what does it stand for?
Earned media value.
Okay. How do you measure that?
There's like essentially technology that pulls down hashtags, pulls down handles, and essentially measures how much those hashtags or those handles are mentioned over a duration of time.
Got it.
Massa Amini has been mentioned. I think it's the second most popular hashtag in the history of Instagram. And that's something that means something to people who market that cause. At the time, BeautyCon was a huge hashtag. And all of my investors were primarily media companies. And they believed, yeah, this should be a media company. Media companies are very valuable. Advertisers are looking for new ways to connect with their audiences. You guys should move down the road of being a media brand. And so in retrospect, probably would not do that again.
Who are the investors?
We had incredible investors. We had investors like Hearst, A&E. We had a ton of those types of brands. We had a lot of celebrities and Live Nation, which is, you know, the largest events media brands in the world. And they had all invested in media. They all liked media.
Well, how would you have described the type of business that BeautyCon was before pursuing a media trajectory?
It was on its way to becoming a events and subscription box business, which in our minds would have transitioned into e-com, pure play e-com. So in the fashion world, you could compare it to a beauty version of Farfetch or Violet Grey, but very specifically focused on a Gen Z non-Caucasian audience. And if it was Caucasian, it was fringe and edge and really at the time focused on, in quotes, the culture. Right? Because at the time, the culture was still really fringe and people were like, I don't know what the culture is. And we knew that the culture was coming like a tidal wave. Like we knew it, we felt it, we were here for it, we were excited about it. It was the mantra at which we operated from.
So what kind of companies do you invest in now? What kinds of, and I know you said you can't necessarily disclose that, but I mean, what kinds of companies, what kinds of founders? If you guys are all gamblers, how do you know when to take your bets?
We're not gamblers.
Essentially.
We're experts. We're domain experts.
You're taking bets. You're shooting your shot.
We are shooting our shot and taking bets. We have invested in beauty brands, wellness brands.
But why? Why them? What are the profiles or things that they have in common that makes you want to be like, yeah, let's write a check?
I mean, like there's the generic answers. Like, is it a big enough space? In venture, you call it, what's the TAM? Do they have defensible ideas and defensible technology? In venture, we call that a moat. And then the most specific and magical question, which is this the right team? Is this the right founder? And that's just a chemistry check. That's a psychological exploration of who a human being is. And does this person have a domain expertise around the topic? Like that's really the three things I am looking for. We are looking for, Kinship is constantly looking at founders who are looking at market opportunities, who have something defensible, and the team has the tenacity and the emotional intelligence and the intellectual intelligence to survive and thrive being a founder, which to me is such a difficult gig to be good at.
Who are the women founders you admire?
God, there's so many. There's literally so many founders that I respect. I respect hundreds of founders within the beauty industry. Bobbi Brown, people like Huda Kattan, people like Anastasia, like, wow, Charlotte Tilbury, impressive. Gwyneth, I think Goop is still like, there's no one else who's created anything like that. There's so many.
Shade Room?
I love Angie deeply.
She founded Shade Room?
Very much. I love her. We are really dear friends. She's someone that I admire. She's someone that I lean on. We really love each other. I always have a soft spot and an affection for Jen Hyman, who built Rent the Runway. Such a hard brand, such a hard business. She's so tenacious. She has weathered that thing through ups and downs and highs and lows. Marcia Kilgore. I mean, I think she built Bliss. She built Beauty Pie, founder of Topicals, the founder of Amicole. Founders of Starface. I really love the founders of Bobbi, which are revolutionizing baby formula. I could literally I used to want to create baseball cards for founders because I love them so much and I admire them so much, but I could go on for days. There's hundreds of founders I'm not mentioning that I love and have such a massive affection for. Beatrice Dixon from Honey Pot. I mean, there's insanely talented founders that I'm lucky enough to call my friends.